Humans use only 10% of their mental capacity. There is research confirming that if a person uses 20% of his mental abilities, he will be able to control other people. But what if a person could use all his mental abilities? Welcome to my channel. Today's movie is Lucy. Lucy's friend Richard asks her to deliver a suitcase to the hotel in the back, but she refuses because she doesn't know what is inside it. But suddenly he tied the bag in her hand and gave her $500 for delivery. She picks up the bag and asks about someone named Jang. The receptionist calls Jang and tells him that there is a lady from Richard who wants to meet him. The receptionist asks her to stay where she is and not move until Jang comes. Suddenly Richard is shot, and Jang's men come and take her to Jang. To find corpses and blood in front of her, she was afraid and trembling. Jang calls an interpreter to translate for her what he will say, and asks her through the translator what is in the bag. Lucy tells him that she doesn't know anything, and that Richard gave her the bag. Jang writes numbers and gives them to her and goes away, and the translator asks her to use those numbers to open the bag. Jang and his men stand behind the wall for fear that there is a bomb in this bag, and threaten to kill her if she doesn't open it. Lucy gets terrified and crying. When she opened it, she found 4 bags of blue powder in it. Jang's men brought an addict to try this new type of drug. When he inhales it, he laughs hysterically. Jang killed him, and told Lucy that he has a job for her. And when she refused, they beat her and she lost consciousness. On the other hand, the great scientist Dr. Norman talks about the mental abilities of humans, and says that for 20 years, he has been working on the premise that a person uses only 10% of his mental abilities. And if he uses 20%, he will control other people. Lucy wakes up and finds that she has had an operation, so she comes out and asks Jang what they did to her stomach. Jang's doctor tells her that they have put a bag of the blue powder, CBH4, in her stomach, to be smuggled later. There are also 3 people who have had the same surgery. The doctor told them that each one of them will travel to a specific country, and his colleagues will receive them and take the bags from them, and give them the agreed amount. On the other hand, Dr. Norman says that the whole role of the cell is to transmit its information to the next cell, and this is what enables us to innovate and develop. Lucy finds herself tied up in a strange place, and there is someone harassing her. So she removes his hand, but he hits her, and she falls to the ground, and he kicks her with his foot very violently and gets out. The wound began to bleed, and the anesthetic bag in her stomach was also torn, and the powder leaked from it and mixed with her blood. She had very violent convulsions that made her hit the ceiling and the wall, then lost consciousness. On the other hand, one of the attendees asked Dr. Norman what would happen if a person could use 100% of his mental abilities. Lucy woke up and sat on the chair. When one of the guards entered her, she hit him professionally, took his gun and went out, and killed the others outside. Then sat eating all the food. There was a shell in her shoulder, she took it out without any feeling of pain. Then she collected weapons, went to a hospital, entered the operating room, killed the patient, and told the doctors that he was inevitably going to die. She asked the doctor to take out the anesthetic bag from her stomach. The doctor removed the cyst from her stomach, and is shocked to discover that it is CBH4. After that, she went to the hotel where Jang lives. She killed the guards from behind the wall, and entered Jang, who was relaxed and listening to music. She put daggers in his hands, and asked him about the people who have drugs in their stomachs. She put her hands on his head, and knew through him that one of them went to Rome, the other to Paris, and the third to Berlin. Then she went to her friend, and when she hugged her, she saw all the cells of her body. She used her computer very fast. She called Dr. Norman, and told him she had read his paper on the mental capacities of humans. But Dr. Norman thought she was joking, but she told him that he had written 6,734 pages in this paper, and that she was ready to read it all, if he wanted to. Suddenly she appeared in front of him on the TV screen, and told him that she knew too much about everything. She told him that she is currently using only 28% of her mental capacity, due to her absorption of CBH4. Dr. Norman asked her to pass on this huge amount of information to him. She told him that she would meet him in 12 hours. Lucy called a policeman in Paris named Pierre. She asked him to take the red pen and gave him the names and descriptions of the people who had drugs in their stomachs, and asked him to arrest them. He immediately arrested one of them in Paris, and asked the police in Rome and Berlin as well. He managed to arrest them all. Then she boarded the plane to Paris, and in the meantime, the cells of her body began to fly, so she ran to the bathroom and took a quantity of CBH4, and fell unconscious. Then she woke up in the hospital in Paris and came out, found Pierre threatening her with weapons, so she moved her hand, and everyone fell except Pierre. She asked him about the wanted persons. He told her that he had arrested all of them. Then she got into the car with him, and was able to hear a call between Zhang and one of his men, so she took Pierre's place and took the lead of the car very fast. Then Zhang's men arrived at the hospital, killed the guards, then operated on the 3 people, and took bags of CBH4 from them. Lucy and Pierre arrived in the hospital. She asked Zhang's assistant to give her the bag with the stuff, but he refused, and asked his men to attack her. Lucy created a barrier in the air that prevented him from leaving the place. She threw all his men into the air, came close to him, and took the bag, and he couldn't resist it. Watching what was happening, Pierre was surprised. After that, Lucy contacted Dr. Norman, who was waiting for her at the university, along with other scientists, and when she entered them, one of them asked her to prove to them her knowledge. She put her hand on him, and told him about the death of his son in detail. She told Pierre that Zhang and his men will come here, and asked him to arrest them. Then she sat talking with the scientists about the abilities and information that she had, and that she wanted to reach 100% of her mental abilities, and asked them to inject her with the rest of CBH4, so that she could transfer all the knowledge to them. Dr. Norman thanked her for her sacrifice. Zhang and his men attacked the place, and Pierre and the police confronted them. Meanwhile, Lucy managed to control time, and was able to reach the Neanderthal man, then reached space. Then turned into a black substance. Zhang entered to kill her, but she disappeared. Pierre entered and killed him. Lucy gave Dr. Norman a memory card. When Pierre asked about her, he found a message on his phone, telling him she was everywhere. Thanks for watching.